Привет из Дубая. С вами передача «Голубь мира», где разбираем крутые навыки. Спрашиваем на английском, отвечаем на русском. Подтягивайте язык или смотрите перевод в тайм-кодах. Let's talk about clustering and let's start with the definition.
Clustering, this is a mathematical method when you are trying to have something which is disordered in a huge amount to divide with a group which will have objects with high predictable behavior. For example, we have customers who enter our storage and some of them tall, some of them fat, some of them carrying bags, some with empty hands, some buying a lot, some eating ice cream and so on. And we are trying to find any description that will fit just for small group of people with same behavior. And if we able to divide this this amount of subjects on such stable groups, it is called clustering.
And what other business areas or maybe like even different areas where the clustering could be definitely used for reveal certain insight?
First example, the customer of the hotel or restaurant. Sometimes you don't know how to give rooms and you are just thinking, this is a small room with shower only. This is a large room with, for example, fireplace and jacuzzi. If it is worth to make upgrade, if this people will give you some tips and so on. And when you have, for example, 10 examples of people's behavior, you could make clusterization, and then you will know exactly from the very first view, is this person worth to upgrade his or her room or not. Another example, for example, you are trying to feed people in a restaurant and you have a good collection of wine. Some of them cheap, some are very expensive, but you don't know, do the people will afford this wine and will be they grateful for this wine, or for example old cheese. And you also make clusterization to understand whom you should offer. Some people have no money and they will be grateful, but you have no profit. Some has money, but they will think this is just ordinary cheese or ordinary wine and they will give you no tip. But you will find exactly one or two group people who will behave as you wish.
And when we're talking about even before we do all of this analysis, probably we need to collect the data and do all of the cleaning to make sense of it. But you also mentioned that there might be like a different dimensions. So what should be the approach to it? Like, for example, if you're talking about the rooms in the hotel, should we consider all of the possible and measuring factors, or should we be more selective?
You know, when you have these digits, you have a lot of them, and there is a lot of rows, a lot of columns, and you never know before clusterization what you will get as a result. So you should create some tables, and in this table for each cluster, you should put some colors. For example, big numbers, you should color it as red, small numbers in blue. And then you should look at these rows just as your vision without any thinking about physical nature of the process or about subjects. And then you'll find that some clusters have big or small amounts of something. And then you should describe to yourself how it looks like. Sometimes I use like berry names or fish names or even planet names. And everyone asked me, how you understand that it is similar as, I don't know, some kind of fish or some kind of berry? And I'm trying to understand. First, you have nothing. You have just this table with these colors, which is show you as a temperature of these digits. And then you should turn on your imagination. And when you describe to yourself, you could explain to others, and they will believe if you believe.
And when we talk about this naming or working with the clusters, probably there might be certain situations when we may have like a something in between of them, something which actually doesn't fit to any of the like a characteristics or whatever. So what should we do with such a like remaining parts?
There is several rules when you make clusterization. First, when you put something in your program, for example, IBM SPSS, you will get clusterization mechanically made, and you will find that some clusters are too big and some are too small. And usually I do just the two things. Sometimes I divide by the force big cluster for 2 or 3, and I combine several small clusters to one. So this is not just about math, it also about understanding. If you will have huge or small amount of subject in the group, you couldn't manage them. So you allow to machine to make some unification, combination, and then you are describing to yourself and to other people the nature that you find in it. And it happened that your clusterization will not work, for example, for several months, and you will decide to remake it. For example, instead of 5 clusters, you will create 3. Instead of 3, you will create 7. But in 2 or 3 experiment, you will find that on huge amount of observation, you will have expectation that will match to the life.
And probably when you manipulate with the data for other people who might be just like observing it from the distance, it might seem like some sort of the magic. But I do believe like even in the magic, there should be some sort of like the grade. So you go from the apprentice to the maestro. So what should be the levels, or what should be the steps, or maybe like a levels of knowledge that you need to pass through in order to ace the clusterization?
First stage to be as a rookie, you should clean the data, because some data presented by database, they would be dirty because of mistakes, typos, and so on. Second level is you should deeply understand physical nature of each row or each column. You should understand by heart, not just by explanation, but you should feel it by yourself. And third, you should understand that some rows and some columns should be normalized or even excluded from your experiment because it is not in use.
And when it comes to doing, like all of this manipulation, what kind of the things that definitely the person who works with the data should be avoiding, and how to actually be aware of such mistakes?
Maybe just one thing I will tell you: you should have no prediction. Sometimes you want to predict what will happen as a result of your experiment, but it is really going to be mess. If you expect behavior, you will get it. This is just law of science. Never expect something, or you will get it, and it would be your greatest mistake.
And when it comes to defining you said that you would define the clusters, like you would see the clusters and you would split them in a different ways. Is it like a good number, or like is it a specific rule or framework in the way you would approach to this division?
Nice question, and no one knows the truth, but you will, and our watchers also will know. Usually, you should understand that 3 to 5, or maybe last number is 7, is could be processed by a man, by a person. But to be honest, when I sell clusterization to my clients, usually I show 3, 5, or 7 clusters. And when my clients agree, then I start to work with their CRM, but I do not use clusterization in that form. Usually I give to any subject just a single clusterization, because if you will use grouping, it will work in a huge amount of data, for example, for 1,000 person or for 10,000 person. But for any person, the predict force will be too few, too slow, too small. So when you sell, you show odd numbers of clusters. Odd — это нечетный. Yes?
That's correct.
Odd
Yeah.
from 3 to 7. But when you implement something in a program system, use for any subject just a single cluster.
And since you mentioned CRM, I do believe sometimes people who might not be doing it quite open, they actually might be mixing segmentation and the clustering. So what is the core difference between two of them?
It is very easy. When we talk about segmentation, all group have the same but different parameters. For example, age, young or old, weight, fat or slim. But when we talk about clusterization, it is often happens that each group of subject has a single I don't know how to say, even in Russian, какой-то пункт, parameter that will not suit to any other group.
And when it comes to actually putting the clusterization into action, usually it's like a one business case that you're trying to address, then give certain recommendations or the insight, or maybe a clusterization would be turned or like embedded as the part of certain like a logic or maybe part of the certain algorithm that would be solved the business cases. So what is the common way of applying the clusterization?
When you, for very first time, trying to make clusterization, you will find a lot of ways, and it would be for you looking as a useful. But in reality, you will become an obvious man, and everyone will say, yes, but you know it anyway, because life already shown us that this is true. Can you please find any new rule? But it is not easy. So if you are going deep into the rabbit hole, you will find a lot of hidden meanings of some parameters and correlation. And if you start to work with some industries like hotels or restaurants or fashion, you will, after 3 or 5 cases, understand how it works, and often your suggestions would be right. But if you are trying to make something for the very first time, you will find that your clusterization will not stand for a long. So you should expect to remake it after, I don't know exactly, but approximately after 10% of events that will happen in the database.
And somehow it actually reminds me of the example of the coffee. So baristas actually saying that, like from the moment till you harvest coffee, wash it, do all of the roastery and do all of the cup of coffee, you just can ruin it with the wrong temperature that you can get. So entire process could be ruined. So I do believe the same potentially might be happening with the clusterization. When you find something, it's like a perfectly, it makes sense. But the moment it comes to like a presenting it to the customer, like preparing like a presentation or making the final steps, what possibly could go wrong and how to avoid this to make sure that it will hit the point?
I don't know how to say it in English, but it is a weight of well-known names, сила известных личностей. For example, a lot of scientists, physics, when they start to write their works, papers after Newton, they were too pressed by him, and they were not able to write something new. Now, the same with clusterization. If you will think that this database is huge, your client is great, and this is maybe a company from Fortune 500 list, then you will have nothing. But if you will step in the experiment with open mind, with great experience, and you will create a lot of experiment, then definitely you will find something. But sometime I should conduct like 400 experiments to find just a single clusterization that will work a bit better than others.
Well, this number really sounds amazing and something to be aspired to. My last question will be how knowing about clusterization could help to make this world a better place.
It was a time when I was trying to create an antivirus program, and there were several attempts. And on the third attempt, I was thinking something I am missing out. I don't know, but my program could not detect some viruses and could not cure some of them. And I was like in a closed room because there were several authors, also Eugene Kaspersky, who was writing articles about typization of viruses. Suddenly, I decided, okay, I am mathematician man. Maybe I could make clusterization. And suddenly, instead of 9 type of computer viruses, I discovered 13. And from this moment, from this every moment, suddenly everything was going well. I rewrite my program in 13 passes, and now I was very strange to the people who write articles, but my program was working quite well.
Иногда можно расширять горизонты и нырять на неизведанные глубины. А мы рассмотрели навык кластеризация и чем он полезен именно вам. Всем мира!